We are on the air.
Woohoo! Hello, everybody. Welcome to our alliterative talk show, Tap Talk. Today's episode featuring guest star Luke MacMillian.
Yay!
Yay! I'm your co-host and co-artistic director at Third Avenue Playhouse, James, and over there is
Bob, the other co-artistic director.
And
co-host.
And
co-host, yes, okay.
And we have Luke MacMillian. Luke was an intern with our company several years ago. When he was an intern, he played the role of the mute in The Fantastics, which is ironic because he has one of the biggest and most beautiful baritone voices I've ever heard.
Thank you.
And I've heard a lot of them. And later we brought him back to do a vehicle handpicked and sort of especially arranged for him, along with a young soprano named Kaylee Ray Gamache, who has been featured on this program as well. That show was called Made to Marry, based on the opera La Serva Padrona, an old chestnut.
Which I might add was adapted by you, James.
It was.
Yeah.
It was indeed. And strangely enough, I had never done that before. And
It worked out really well.
Yeah, it did. Well, it was fun. I had never translated an opera libretto before. And it just seems like I haven't done one since, but I certainly would be interested in doing it again. But it was really fun because it allowed me to use two of my biggest loves, and at least one of them is an actual skill. The music is an actual skill, and the language is sort of an avocation. But I sort of could combine the two, and it was just great fun. Although in Italian, everything rhymes, so it's really easy for them.
That's true. There's only a few different endings there.
Yeah, everything rhymes, and in English, hardly anything rhymes. So we have our challenges that they don't have. Anyway, but enough of that. We'll come back to that skit later. But we want to ask you the question that we ask everybody, Luke, which is, where are you, and how are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Well, I am in New York City right now. We're doing pretty well. Just trying to stay, holed up in the apartment as much as we can. Yeah, I'm living with my girlfriend, Suzanne. She's a soprano, operatic soprano. And yeah, it's a lot of finding ways to keep yourself occupied, and yeah. So we actually just started a TEFL course, a teaching English as a foreign language course.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, so that's kind of something that's been keep taking up some of our time, and it's been a lot of fun so far. We're actually just on the first week, but I'd say overall things are going pretty well for us too, despite the whole fact that we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, that
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially in New York. I mean, that's a particular challenge.
Yeah. It's definitely pretty crazy here. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just going out. Luckily, the ones I see through the window, they're wearing masks, so that's good. But a lot more
don't go out too much.
Sorry.
You don't go out too much.
No, not unless I have to. I try and take the dog out, and that's about it. Yeah.
And how are people? I know we've lived in New York for years. How is it in the building? When you encounter somebody who wants to use the elevator at the same time as you?
Oh yeah, I usually just let them keep going, and then I take I just wait for it to come back up.
Next car, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just hope they don't get offended and understand, and
that's what we all hope.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Well, let's talk about you, not about the pandemic.
Okay.
Here's a question we've been asking everybody, so we'll put it to you. It's a question Bob came up with, and it's sort of great. What was the first spark for you of music and theater? That first really caught you, and when did you know that this is what you wanted to spend your life doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it was probably either like still to this day, The Music Man is one of my favorite musicals. I think it was the first one I ever saw on film, and I just fell in love with it. I think the other one, when I think one of the first live shows I ever remember seeing was Hair. They did a really good community theater production of it in my hometown, and that always stuck with me. Yeah, that I think those two would have been probably the first times. I was like, wow, I want to do that. I want to try that out.
And how old were you?
I think I was probably 5 or 6 when I saw The Music Man, and then probably 8 when I saw Hair.
What a strange spectrum of.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I always loved rock music, and it was kind of eye opening to see, wow, rock musical.
Yeah.
Mm.
How old were you when you first participated? What was your first, what's your first big thing? Bob's was Rumpelstiltskin in grammar school.
Yeah, how old wait, did you play Rumpelstiltskin, Bob?
No. I didn't play it.
You saw it. Sorry.
No, that was My Music Man.
That's right. You saw it.
And Hair all rolled up into one.
Yeah.
Got it all.
Yeah. Let's see. Wait, sorry. Repeat the question.
Well, when did you first start doing it? Were you in choir? Were you in a play in grade school, or what?
Yeah, it was 5th or 6th grade. I think we did a community theater production. It was like a summer camp of Cinderella. So that would have been the first thing. I played the king, and then the next summer I was Mufasa in The Lion King. So those were kind of the first 2. And then, yeah, I remember. So I did musicals all the way up until high school. Actually, I guess I did 1 or 2 plays in middle school. But then The Crucible was like my first non-musical acting role, and yeah, it was just kind of like the ball kept rolling. I kept getting more and more into it the more shows I did.
And so at some point in high school, you had decided to go to Lawrence University as a voice major. Did you start as that? I don't even know.
Yeah, so I'm still not exactly sure how I did it. I went in as an education major and informally changed my major, and I think the dean just changed it, hearing me say, no, I'm vocal performance now, or something like that. So I was an education major for about a week, and then went into vocal performance.
Well, if I heard your voice say I'm vocal performance, I would say, yes, you are.
No, thanks. Yeah. And because I originally, I was so much more into musical theater, and in a lot of ways still am. Kind of the reason I gravitated more towards opera for a while was the art song aspect, but I wanted to get a classical background to really be able to sing kind of the golden age musical theater pieces, Sondheim, that sort of work, and then fell more and more into the operatic scene as I was there.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then you tried to fall out of it. And some people, one of whom was me at least, I don't want to take any undue credit, but I was encouraging.
There's no credit there to be,
and pushed you back into it. But well, let me just give the quick version of the backstory for those of our viewers who haven't heard me already tell it. But as I said, Luke was an intern during his time at Lawrence, doing all sorts of odd jobs, and then the last show of that season was The Fantastics, where you played the mute, a character who doesn't speak or sing. And I knew that you were a voice major, and I heard your speaking voice, but I had really never heard you sing. And it was our fundraiser gala.
Oh yeah.
And I said, Luke, I know you study opera, and it's always fun at our galas if not everybody is singing a pop song or a musical comedy song, but if you want to sing an opera thing, that would be great. And you said, yeah, I'll do Non più andrai. I said, great. Do we need to rehearse it? No, we'll just wing it that night. Well, that's what happened. This is my memory of it anyway. And we're in this big hotel, ballroom, like where you have a wedding, really rancid acoustics, carpeting, and those, accordion fold room dividers, and high ceilings. And tablecloths everywhere, just no acoustic. So, everybody's like eating the mic just so they can be heard over the din in this room. And Luke's going up to sing. And I said, Luke, the mic's over there. He said, no, I'm not going to use it. I was like, okay. And you started singing and you filled the room effortlessly. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was a big voice. It was a beautiful voice. And I want to say it was a natural voice. And by that, I hate it when someone says, oh, they're a natural. Like, oh, they can just, roll out of bed doing that. That's not what I mean. But especially in young singers, you hear a lot of like fake opera voices because it's not really what their voice is, but they want to sing opera. So they kind of push their voice into that fach. But there was no pushing with you. It was so effortless, and you just have like a natural operatic voice. And I think that's why it is so beautiful, because it's extremely well trained, and I know you work on it all the time, but it's not produced in the way that some, especially young operatic voices are. It just is. And
thank you.
It was quite astounding, and it was astounding for me to hear, and it was because of that I, and we had our one-on-one at the end of the year when you were leaving your internship. And, I was asking you what you were going to do, expecting you to say, well, I'm, pursuing a career as the next star of the operatic stage.
Yeah.
And you said, well, no, I think I'm going to do straight plays and, maybe a little folk rock music and maybe do a musical somewhere along, and I'm like, oh, God. And, I knew that you had your issues with opera, but I remember being very encouraging of you because it's such a gift, Luke.
Thank you.
And yeah, in order to facilitate that, at some point shortly after your internship ended, I did get the idea that, well, I always wanted to do an opera at TAP and knew it had to be really theatrical and really entertaining. And because it's not normally what we do, and our audience aren't like opera goers, but I think any audience can be an opera lover if it's good. If it's compelling. And I thought, well, who better to create a few converts to opera than Luke, who you're such an appealing and wonderful performer and a terrific actor. Tall as the mighty oak. Like 6'4", 6'5". I mean, Luke's a very tall, strapping, good-looking, good actor with a beautiful operatic voice. So what's not to like? So I did pick an opera that I thought we could pull off with a teeny tiny cast, but unfortunately the part for you, the male role, the bass baritone, was an old hag.
Yeah.
So I figured out a way to redo the opera and have him be an attractive young chauvinist of the John Hamm in Mad Men sort of mold. And then the whole thing sort of fell into place, and it was kind of a Mad Men meets I Love Lucy vibe. And I found a soprano who was your match in all of your attributes, not 6'4", but another looker, and totally entertaining, smart, good actor with a fantastic young, fresh voice. And I got to tell you, Luke, that was just one of the best experiences I've had, hearing your two young voices just coming into first bloom in our little tiny space where operas like that. This was an opera from, the early 1700s. Was it like 1720 something?
Yeah, I think I'm getting my dates mixed up, but I think it was just pre-Mozart.
Yeah. Pre-Mozart.
Right.
It was like pre-Cimarosa and pre-Cimarosa, sorry.
Wait, the long O, no double S.
Exactly. Cimarosa. Yeah. So those operas were performed in small rooms like that, and I think weren't declaimed so much as they were just lovingly sung. And it was so wonderful with the two of you. And so enough of that. You have gone on to a burgeoning, emerging opera career. I'm waiting to see a cover story or a photo of you in Opera News.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be too long in the future.
Well, I haven't been performing as much as of late. I had a kind of a transition into I think I really am a bass baritone, and in grad school they were really trying to make me into a baritone. And so I just needed to take a little bit of a break after, a couple audition seasons after that of trying to be something that I wasn't. So might do a few more auditions here, but I've been finding actually that I'm really liking doing some of these smaller projects in the city, kind of the more intimate things, and a little bit more concert work based. I've been really enjoying that. And I also find that I've been singing a lot better when it's not been something I've been having to do to live on, So I've actually been really kind of enjoying working other jobs in the music industry, and and then having a supplemental income from performing, because I know it doesn't have to be my livelihood, which I think in a way allows me to
Kind of
relax.
great.
Yeah, and it allows me to relax into the performing a little bit more. So I've been going less for the high profile stuff lately. Part of it because I think I need to refigure out my low range again, but
It's still there.
yeah, exactly. I don't think it'll be too hard, but this last season was a little bit. I still had one foot in one voice type and one foot in the other. That it was a little too soon to go back into that. So I don't really have too much on the docket. I had 3 or 4 concerts that have been canceled due to COVID. So
Sure.
hopefully those will come back in. But hopefully more coming.
Right. Well, you're in a wonderful place to sort of mix and match media and genres, and you do have an interest, as you were saying earlier, in straight theater, straight plays, and musical theater, and other things as well. I think video, and they do that kind of stuff all over the place, but a lot in New York, and that a classically trained singer, at your first thought might be that that kind of thing would be anathema to really progressive techniques, but on the contrary, there's a lot of mixing of surprising elements.
Yeah.
And you fit into that scene so well.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's a lot of great companies in New York that are doing some amazing projects. Just thinking of, well, even in the Midwest, like I think Chicago Opera Theater a few years did a Verdi Macbeth where everyone was both facing out from their forehead and onto their face, so it was like projected. All their faces were projected around the theater, and so it is crazy that you used to kind of think of opera singing as just what they call like park and bark, just standing there, but the people I know who are really making it in the profession, they've got to be able to jump around on a stage and do all crazy things. And even with the Met Live broadcasts, I mean, you got to be able to act both for a 3,000 seat theater and and someone looking at your face this close right on the screen.
Right, and this is quite an ask for classically trained singers, whereas you said the standard for generations was the park and bark mode. And yes, there was legitimate passion being expressed, but 99% of it was in the voice.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing to like, you hear some young singers too that like I think it can be harder to cultivate an ear to listen for that, because there is so much other stuff going on nowadays that like if you're having a bad vocal day, sometimes it can be carried. The performance can be really carried by a visual aspect in your colleagues. Right. And I can say for myself, it's taken a long time to cultivate an ear to really know, within different operatic contexts, like, what are they doing and what are the signals of expression, and like, of course, there is a intrinsic, like you hear a moving performance and it's just moving, but like being able to dissect and be like, what is that and what are they doing? I think we have much less of a trained ear for that these days.
True that. I want you to talk a little bit more about Lawrence, and actually how we first met you.
Yeah.
You did say Luke MacMillian vocal performance, and I was like, of course. Where we met you was in our studio theater. You were part of a really amazing startup student-run theater company at Lawrence, and that was the first year. It's still going on, and you guys have all long since graduated, and they're still doing it. They don't have quite the same. They're great, but there was something about the first, and it doesn't have quite the same flair it did. But talk to us about that, because we were so impressed with all of you when you came in.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. It's one thing that Lawrence, I think, is so incredible for is, I mean, they've got such a strong artistic performance program. You always see like their jazz artists in Downbeat magazine, their opera singers in Opera News. But I think part of what makes some of like the performers very strong is they teach a lot of entrepreneurship, and so it was really cool to basically the opportunity. It was Greyfell Theater was the name we came up for it.
Greyfell.
Yeah, and it was professor advised. I mean, they gave us kind of the rubric for it, but more or less kind of told us, all right, go create a company. So it was Tim Troy, the chair of the theater department there, and I forget the economy professors' names. I didn't work as closely with them, but
right. Well, that was the really cool thing about it. Did you hear that, audience? Economy professors. So it
yeah.
really was about a business, about running a business.
Exactly. Yeah, it was combining the two departments to do basically a D-term course on how to create your own kind of startup or business. It was technically a startup theater because it was focused on how much it could grow. So, but yeah, it was pretty incredible. We had everyone wrote drafts of plays, and then we selected those to be produced. And most of this was done within a 2-week period. That did the marketing, had kind of crash courses on marketing. Got in contact with the radio stations, put up flyers all throughout Door County. Created the website. We actually had, I think it was Eric Morrison, did a lot of the web design, made a really cool looking website. And
for those who don't know, Lawrence is in Appleton, which is not in Door County. It's about 90 minutes from here. So you guys were not even on your home turf doing this.
Exactly.
In a way at camp, only in a real community.
Yeah, and it was really, I mean, just an eye-opening experience, not even just to like learn how to do like the specific tasks, but I think the most valuable thing I got from it was that, oh, this is possible. I could move anywhere now and like probably figure it out. Like I've got like the ability now to create something if I want to put on a show or a festival or start a company. It was really valuable for that. It really instilled a can do and go get it attitude.
Yeah, well, they don't call it show biz for nothing. It is a business, and most of us never really learned the business or weren't taught the business. We learned it the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
Well, we learned it as we went along, and by watching people who made a go of it, or learn what not to do. But it was and is a really great thing. So we had 5 Lawrence interns that summer. It was a very large crew of interns that we had, and all of you were from Greyfell Theater, and you were just marvelous, totally enterprising and self-starting. And you guys put on an intern capstone production.
Oh yeah.
Which was very eye-opening because you all had multiple skills and incorporated those, but also kind of went out of your comfort zones. And Kelsey Wang, lovely lyric soprano, cut off her hair while singing a sad blues or something. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that was the year after you.
I think it was the year after I was there, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. I didn't actually know that.
Oh yeah, she had beautiful long hair, and she just snipped it off. And
Anya Kapishki cut Kelsey's hair, as Kelsey was singing.
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh, it
I
was
remember
really-
Anya wrote a lot of the scenes that we did the year before.
She did.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah, so that group of interns was the 5 Lawrence people and plus Anya
Right.
that year. And it was, just as James said, it was an extraordinary group of people. We were very spoiled. One of our second set of interns was certainly the most, I don't know, collectively the most amazing group.
Oh, the bar was set very high.
The bar was set very high, spoiled us in, a lot through that. And then then you moved on to what? Bard.
Yeah. I took it was probably a year and a half after I interned with you two that so I did a gap year, a year and a half gap. And
So that gap year was when Made to Marry happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was, 8 months after I interned? Something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, I did that. But then kind of spent that time just working on technique and working on grad school applications.
And you were back in Oregon.
Yes.
So you had a voice teacher who you really liked, so it was time well spent.
Yeah, I did. Pamela South and also my coach, Richard Bauer. They both did a lot to fabulous people to work with. And learned a lot from them. And then, then went to Bard and studied with Don Upshaw and the late Sanford Sylvan. And that was,
Don Upshaw. Oh, her.
Yeah.
And how was that whole experience up there?
It was pretty incredible. It was, wow. Learned a ton. I don't even know really where to start. I think, I was so at home. Like the first part of the year was pretty much just devoted to German art song, which is one of my first musical loves. And so I was very happy and right at home. And then we ended up doing a couple of premieres. They did the spring of my first year. They did a whole set of premieres of art songs. So that was cool. And it kind of, going back to Lawrence being really focused on entrepreneurship, Bard was as well, and that was a huge draw for me there. So I actually ended up managing a concert series, and then with some friends, we produced a concert. It was kind of a crossover between folk music and classical music, and this was right after the 2018 election, or 16 election. Getting my years mixed up here. So we were pretty. We were trying to find something that might be kind of slightly politically minded and blend that in with the arts. And so the whole idea was, with all the anti-immigration stuff going around, kind of trying to find how can we put on a concert series that shows that we're not all so different, and we actually are pretty much all of us here immigrants, unless you're Native American. So that was kind of one of the underlying themes of the recital that we the concert series, one of the concert series we put on. And
how did you realize that? Did you do multicultural pieces? What was it?
Yeah, we had different pieces from different folk tunes from different areas of our heritage. So I did one actually that my great uncle Ken Leslie wrote. He was both a composer and a poet laureate, and
Really?
So he's got all these adaptations of Canadian folk songs. So I did one of those, and then one of the girls in the group, she has Italian heritage, did O Sole Mio, and our pianist was Israeli, and she actually did a piece. Who was it? I forget the composer, but it was written in the concentration camps, and she had who had died there. So and then some different Irish folk tunes that we blended in, and then actually some Bob Dylan adaptations that we did as well. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
Oh, oops. I want you to talk about your experience of doing Made to Marry a little bit.
Yeah.
Tab. You knew us. It was a little different. We had Kaylee Ray on this show last week, I guess. It was a little different for her because she had never worked with us before, and I mean, might have just thought we were insane. But you had spent the summer with us and done a production or two, so so your perspective would be a little bit different than hers.
Right. Well, I already knew all the Valkisms. What was it? Like a bomb, like a present.
Valkeys.
Yeah, Balkies.
Valkeys.
Speak the lingo.
Yeah. No, I actually thought it was like a really. I still feel really lucky to have had that experience. It was such an incredible thing to do, to be able to to present something like you said earlier. This was an opera that was done usually in a setting about that size. So in a way, it was kind of incorporating period performance with, really pushing the envelope, new cutting edge work with the new translation. Really funny too, like really funny libretto. And
it was pretty funny.
Like, I don't think you would expect something like, so like when you really look at it, like that was an incredibly unique and cutting edge project. And then to have that smack dab in a rural area it's pretty crazy. And, so it's, I think, I mean, I know I'm very lucky, and I think Door County is very lucky too, to just have, a project like that. It's kind of, it's unheard of in a way. So but I think it was so well presented that it was still really tasteful. That like a lot of people they didn't realize they were going into an opera, and they're like, well, we didn't realize we liked opera.
Right. Then mission accomplished, because that was the idea.
Oh, that was by design.
What's that?
That was by design. I mean, we weren't sure if we marketed it as an opera, people who would like opera would perhaps come, but maybe others felt that wasn't something they'd want to see.
For me, I don't want to go to that.
But they like musicals. Which in a very technical sense, operas are musicals, of course. So we called it, what did we call it? A
comedy with music.
Comedy with music.
Right. Yeah.
Comedy with music. So we tricked people into coming to see it, and they it was our biggest hit up to that point.
It was incredible too to just see, like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for the kind of the schmaltzier stuff, I guess, but like seeing people like couples like walking out of the show holding hands. It
was so romantic too. It was a romantic comedy with music. That's what we called it. So in spite of all the goofing around, it was very romantic, and you guys made just the most beautiful couple. Not just looking at you, but your chemistry was great. The kind of chemistry
made it really easy. She's fantastic.
She is fantastic, but that's the kind of chemistry you see in a movie romantic comedy, and that sometimes you see in a play. And here we were having it in this tiny little weird opera. Really, that kind of chemistry, and it had a great amount of charm. And as long as we've been talking about Lawrence, and I didn't mention Cindy when we were talking with Kaylee Ray, but Cindy Steele is a Door County resident. She's a singer and an arts advocate and a philanthropist, and the president of the board of another theater company. Whose name we shan't mention, but they're called Northern Sky. Anyway, Cindy is a great advocate of young singers, a great champion of them, and I asked her to help us out with that show as a sponsor. And I remember having a meeting with her at Gloss, a coffee shop here in town, and we were having tea in big mugs. And I told her, I want to do a stealth opera. She's like, I'm all ears. What is that? So I told her we want to do an opera, but not tell anybody that it's an opera. But I wanted to hire you and Kaylee Ray, and I wanted to pay you a decent wage.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, everybody prepares and everybody works, but I think classical disciplines, it's just harder. It just is. Maintaining the instrument for a ballet dancer or an opera singer is different. And musical comedy singers, I mean, they sing 8 shows a week, and they have to keep that thing in good shape. That's an art too, but it's just different because the expectations are so precise and specific about what an operatically produced voice is. Ditto with ballet dancing. I mean, Ray Bolger is not Nijinsky and didn't have to be, and he's fabulous. And sure, he worked too, but it's different when there's a discipline of tradition in what you do. So, and that Cindy understood that as much as anybody. She's a fine singer herself. And, knowing that you guys would have to work with coaches before you came up here, I was in this, as you say, this cutting edge English translation. So you didn't have to get a language or dialect coach or anything. But nonetheless, learning an operatic score takes a lot of prep work that doing a musical comedy, it's just different. It's a different discipline. So I wanted to make sure that you guys were recompensed. I mean, not in an opera house fashion, but
you guys were really generous.
That it's it's a discipline. And so yes, I specifically for that show sought a sponsor who would understand what the ask was about, and she couldn't have been more delighted. We still talk about it and laugh about it. We pulled off this stealth opera, and all these people came, and nobody knew what they were coming to. So yeah, it was great fun for all of us.
Yeah. No, it certainly was, and that was so generous of her to be a sponsor on that.
Oh yeah, and she's also a Lawrence alum, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So it was an extra incentive for her. So
definitely
doing that, and yeah, she is a lovely, lovely lady.
Now, one role you didn't get to do with us, I offered you MacMillian in Candide.
Yeah.
And you said, no, I can't do it because I'm covering MacMillian in Candide. But you weren't doing it in Sturgeon Bay. You were doing it at Ravinia or
Tanglewood and Ravinia.
Yeah.
That was with a Brooklyn-based orchestra called the Knights, and it was their first project that they were doing with as a staged show, and so the orchestra was on stage, and we were doing the acting and everything in front of it. And as you know, Candide it's a lovely show, and that you can really adapt the staging to fit so many different needs.
It's very malleable.
Yeah. So we had little plug, the soprano from The Bachelor, Charlene Joint. She was the Cunegonda, and
no kidding.
Yeah, and Miles Hare, who was he just won the Miles McKinnon won the Met competition last year. He was the Candide, and it was definitely something to cross off the bucket list, being able to perform on both of those.
Wow, it's exciting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, you definitely got the long end of the Candide stick.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, I think I've now performed Max in 4 different productions. I think so. Yeah.
Well, it's such a match. We did end up having a fabulous MacMillian who also was an operatically trained singer. So I didn't get my loop, but I did get I got what I ultimately wanted, but it wasn't.
I couldn't make it.
Well, James, the old clock on the wall.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
it's time for us to wrap up this talk show. Do you have any final words? Anything you want to say to our audience?
Just want to say, definitely, door counting audience. Yeah, keep supporting the arts for sure. What James and Bob are doing there is really incredible, and I not only learned a lot, but I was really lucky to have the chance to work with them both behind the scenes and on the stage. So it's a really good thing going there on Sturgeon Bay. So keep it up. You guys are doing some amazing work. I feel really lucky to have been able to work with you guys.
Well, we feel lucky to have worked with you. It's been really great reconnecting with you. And I just want to add to that you're exactly the kind of young person that we'd love to champion at our theater. And, just somebody who was an intern and then was able to do one show, and then within months studying with Dawn Upshaw in New York.
Yeah.
But there is incredible talent, and not all of it is seasoned. You have to start somewhere, and
Right.
I'd say often we don't consider ourselves a training ground, but remarkably gifted young people need a forum, and we want to be one of those forums for these people, because we and our audiences gain so much from working with you and watching you.
Well, it's reciprocal. I mean, I know me and Kaylee and all my fellow interns from that summer. We all gained a lot. So yeah, you guys are definitely doing the right thing.
Well, it's like James has said many times. Both of us have gotten so much support early on in our careers from people who just said yes and gave us opportunities that we otherwise would not have had. And so now we're in a position to basically, pay that forward and bring people in like you and others to work with us, because it's the future of this whole art form.
Yeah.
So we are more than pleased.
Great.
At being able to do it, and to hearing about all the good things that have happened to you since, and I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot more coming your way. And
thank you.
I cannot wait to see and hear it.
Thank you.
Bring you back here.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, so good to see both of you, and so good to talk with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Before we peace out, we're going to thank our sponsor. We have another sponsor for this program, somebody who loves our talk show. Go figure. A friend of the theater, an anonymous friend of the theater. So thank you so much, anonymous friend. We really appreciate it. And we actually love doing these shows because we get to see our old pals again and chat with them for a while. We miss you, Luke.
I miss you guys too. I got to get out to Wisconsin sometime soon and see you both.
Yeah, you do.
Well, please do. You got to leave that apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
And the dog will like it a lot better here, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for doing this, Luke.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
So long.
MacMillian, peace out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
And